so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our geometry units. And before we really get into the shapes and everything, I want to talk about isolating variables in an equation. So we might see something like this and go, okay, there are a lot of variables in this. And so if I were to say, let's solve for x. If I'm saying let's solve for x, I'm saying I want x by itself, and everything else we're going to move over. So we're not going to worry about this a because it's on that other side of the equal sign. So we're not going to worry about it quite yet. What I'm going to do though is basically start out and work my way in. What that means is I'm going to move that t first. And in order to move it, I'm going to add it to the other side because I'm subtracting it here, so it cancels. And we're left with 4x equals a plus t. Right? We can't combine a and t. They have different last names. They are different variables. We cannot combine them together. And then in order to get x by itself, it's being multiplied by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4. Now, is there any way for 4 to go into a or 4 to go into t? No. So we just leave it like this. X equals a plus t over 4. Now you may be asking, okay, why would we need to know that? And when we get into the geometry, we have a lot of different formulas that we may have to rearrange so that they make sense. So if we're trying to find, if we have the formula for area, but we know the area, we know the width, we just don't know the length, we may need to rearrange that formula so that it makes sense to us. So this is just a way to kind of introduce it so that when we get to those formulas, it's a little bit easier. So let's look at another one. So in this example, we're going to go ahead and again, we're isolating x. So we want everything with the x, so this whole piece right here, to move to the other side of the equal sign. So in order to do that, we have to do the opposite of what's happening here. So if y minus z is under that x, that means we are dividing it. So it's opposite of dividing, multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides by y minus z. So then we have x by itself on this side, and then we have 3y minus z. You can leave it like this, or we can go ahead and distribute that 3, so then we're left with 3y minus 3z equals x. Let's look at this one. So again, we want to get x by itself. So that means we are going to divide by 1/2. When we divide by 1/2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 2. So we have x equals 2u plus 6. Because 1/2, dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by 2. So we can, again, leave it like this, or we can distribute. That's our answer right there. Let's look at some more examples. All right, so here's our x in this one. So in order to isolate that x, we work our way in. So we start at the outside and work our way in. So the first thing to eliminate is this 8. So that means multiplying by 8 on both sides. And so that would cancel out here, and we're left with just xd equals 8c. And then if we wanted to get rid of this d, it's being multiplied by the x. So the opposite would be to divide by d on both sides. So we're left with x equals 8c over d. All right, let's look at this last one. So again, we want to get x by itself. So what that means is we need to get rid of this negative 10v. In order to do that, we have to do the opposite, which is to add 10v to both sides. So on this side, we're left with negative x, And then on this side, again, we have a v and an s. We cannot combine them. So we're going to have 10v minus 27s. Lastly, we don't really have x by itself. It has an invisible -1 with it. So we're going to divide by -1. And what that's going to give us is x equals -10v plus 27s. All right, try these next couple on your own. So our first step in these questions is to go ahead and identify where our x is. So our x is here. All right, so that means that we want everything on the same side of the x to move. So we need to first move this 2h. So it's positive, so in order to move it, we're going to subtract it from both sides. So we have x left alone on this side. And then over here, we just write them all next to each other. And that's the answer to that one. All right, again, firstly identifying where our x is. So work our way from the outside in. So we're going to subtract this 2. So left with kx equals 3b minus 2. Then the k and the x are right next to each other, meaning they're multiplying. So we need to do the opposite, which is to divide. So this is x equals 3b minus 2 over k. All right, so here's our x in this question. So we can go ahead, subtract or add the z to this side. So we're left with y minus x equals 5 over 7 plus z. Then we can go ahead and subtract the y. So we're left with negative x equals 5/7 plus z minus y. Then we still have this -1. Oops. So then we're going to divide by -1. When you divide by -1, it just changes all of the signs. So then we have -5/7 minus z plus y as your answer. All right, last one. Here's our x right here. So we're going to go ahead, subtract q from both sides. Then we have 5 minus q equals x minus 21. We're going to add 21 to both sides. Now this one, 5 and 21 have the same last name. They're both numbers. They belong to the same family. So we can combine them together. All right, and that's the end of this lesson.